Congressman Steve King and I serve in the House Judiciary Committee, among other things. I'm the ranking member of the Immigration Subcommittee. It means if the Republicans take the majority, I will be the chair of the Immigration Subcommittee, most likely. And I have been engaged in this immigration policy well beyond my time here in Congress. But as I sat through the immigration hearings, witness after witness would testify that we were losing 250, 300, finally 400, then 450 people, mostly in the desert in Arizona. Those who were trying to come into the United States illegally ran out of water or were victimized by criminals or just ran out of stamina. That was the number. And it continually came into every panel of the testimony we heard in the Immigration Subcommittee and sometimes a broader full Judiciary Committee. I began to ask those expert witnesses, you've told me how many people died in the desert coming into the United States illegally. I'd like to know how many Americans die at the hands of those who do make it across the desert, those that do come into the United States illegally. And no witness knew that answer. They would look at each other like, what kind of a question is that? Well, I think it's far more important that we ask the question of what is the level of victimization of Americans as opposed to what's the loss of people who come here illegally into the United States, where if we secured our borders, wouldn't even be able to make that attempt to try to get across the desert, let alone die in the desert. And finally, a witness that was there testifying who had, as a former INS agent, one who lost friends and colleagues in the Twin Towers on September 11, 2001, when I asked him, how many Americans die at the hands of those who do make it across the desert, those who come into the United States illegally, he said, I don't know the answer to that, but I can tell you it will be in multiples of the victims of September 11. And when he said that, that galvanized the thought process for me, and that's when I requested the GAO study, the study that was finally produced before this Congress and released to the public in April of 2005, that gives us some sense of those numbers. Now, government being government, they provide a deniable link in their calculus. These are the numbers that I can tell you are in the report, and then I'll tell you how they are extrapolated. But first, they say in the report that 27% of those incarcerated in our federal penitentiaries are criminal aliens. Now, the vast majority, the significant majority of those are those who entered the United States illegally. Some of those criminal aliens came in here legally, their visa expired, they were not lawfully present here in the United States when they committed the crime, or they lost their legal status when they committed the crime. In any case, that's the definition of a criminal alien. But 27% of those in our federal penitentiaries are criminal aliens by that report. Then, when I asked the numbers for our state, county, and city, our local jails, we don't keep good records on that. In fact, we have very poor records on it, and the states that I have asked have not been able to produce documented evidence. But what the report does say is that we reimburse those local prisons, the state, county, and city prisons, for only 25% of their cost of incarcerating criminal aliens. Now, when I do the numbers, that comes to $22,500 a year per inmate, which means that they're reimbursing 100% for 25% of the criminal alien inmates. So however you want to crunch this, you're in a number bigger than 25% of the overall incarcerated in America are criminal aliens. Then when you take that number, multiply 25%, 26, 27, or 28% across there, you come up with a number, 16,400 murders in America a year. If a fourth of them are committed by criminal aliens, those who aren't lawfully present in the United States, then you're going to see over 4,000. In fact, the number that I calculated was 4,518 murder victims a year at the hands of criminal aliens. If you add to that those victims of negligent homicide, generally that's going to be the victims of drunk driving, not the drunks themselves, they aren't counted in this, but the victims of drunk driving. That's another number that's larger than that. It's more than 4,518, it's less than 5,000. I don't have that exact number committed to memory. But if you calculate this out, it comes down to 12 Americans a day dying a violent death at the hands of criminal aliens, and that violent death being generally first, second degree murder, manslaughter, those types of homicide. And then there's another 13 a day that are victims of negligent homicide. Most of that are victims of drunk driving. So if you add that up, you're in the area of 9,000 Americans a year whose lives are lost because we didn't have 100% enforcement of our immigration laws at our border, and when someone's visa run out, we didn't pick them up and send them home. Now, you can argue that we couldn't have 100% enforcement no matter how we calculated it. Maybe so, but we've got very low enforcement on this, and I will say that thousands of people would be alive today if we had enforced our immigration laws over the last 20 years. And that's just the people that are alive. That's not counting victims of theft, victims of assault, victims of rape, all of those violent crimes that are also a statistical component of this. The human suffering in the United States has been tremendous, and we focus ourselves on other things like those that died in the desert, those that want to have a better life, when it's the responsibility of those of us here in Congress, the responsibility of the President and the administration to enforce our laws, provide security, and protect Americans. And so when I see that data, and I spent days pouring through that data over here in the Library of Congress in a quiet, secure room so that I can absorb all of that and get it understood and process it and deliver it in a way that it can be understood, and begin to understand what our responsibility is, keeping in mind the massive numbers of crime victims that are direct victims because we haven't enforced our immigration laws. It's the people that wouldn't be here if we enforced our laws that are committing about 25% or more of the crime in this country. And you add to that $65 billion worth of illegal drugs that are brought into the United States across our southern border, and the cost of human suffering, the destruction of human potential because those illegal drugs are being used here, not to mention the crime, the drug cartels that are strategically connected, and the conduits of drug distribution, illegal drug distribution in the United States that are directly built on the conduits of illegal immigration. Now, when I asked the point-blank question from our drug enforcement agency, what would happen if everyone tomorrow morning woke up sleeping in a country that they were legal to reside in and legal to work in? If that happened by some magic wand, then what would happen to the illegal drug distribution links of those chains in America? Their answer is invariably, it would shut it off and it would shut it down. And they would have to reconstruct a new way to distribute illegal drugs in America. For those reasons, the illegal drugs, the violence that's committed against Americans, all of those reasons is why we need to build a double fence with a wall. We need to force all human and contraband and all traffic through the ports of entry. We need to beef up our ports of entry to do a better job. We need to end birthright citizenship. If we do that, that shuts off 350,000 new babies a year that start the chain migration that can bring back in 270 or more of their interconnected family members. We need to enforce in the workplace. We need to pass and enforce the new IDEA Act, which removes the federal deductibility for wages and benefits paid to illegals. That lets the IRS come into this thing to help enforce what used to be the INS and is now ICE. Those are some things this Congress needs to do. If the American people understood all of this fully and got on the phone and got on their email and went to see their congressmen and their senators, you would see things change here in this city. And so I encourage all of that. I thank everyone here for putting up this webpage, for tracking this, and for putting the faces of the victims up for Americans to see. I've given you some large statistics.